This is Kung Pao Enter the Minute, Minute 16. Opening frame. We continue on with Master Tang asking,
"What in God's name is that thing?"
before cutting to the Chosen One, informing the Master that it appears to be what his pursuers are after, adding,
"There are so many things I've yet to understand."
Master Tang finds out that the mysterious weird creature in the Chosen One's mouth is named Tonguey, to which he replies,
"I should not have asked."
Standing up and walking around, Master Tang proclaims that it is a glorious day and that the Chosen One will free his people from
the evil council.
Master Tang starts to blare out as he reminisces the audience into a flashback, where he recalls that his old friend once told him that there would be a Chosen One.
There will be a Chosen One.
Master Tang, standing up again, for reasons, once again blurs into a flashback as he recalls his friend telling him about the significance.
It will be significant.
And as we enter the closing frame, as Master Tang once again starts to go blurry, he informs us that his friend
killed the dog.
Whoa, okay, this is gonna be a pretty short episode. I mean, that's pretty much it for this minute. Like, just a lot of background, not really any... Oh yeah, there's a couple of jokes, but the joke is really the repeated blurring in and out. Before we get to that, so find out that Tonguey's name is Tonguey in this. Tonguey appears to be the source of the Chosen One's mysterious powers, and it's tied into something called the Evil Council. We're kind of smart enough to presume that that's what Master Pain is aligned with. Well, we assume that's who he's aligned with. So the main joke in this particular minute is the constant reusing of the same piece of footage, and yeah, it's silly, it's stupid, I know, but I like it. So this piece of footage is actually a flashback within Tiger and Crane Fists. Just for a bit of context of the scene, the character that we know as Master Tang is the head student of the Crane School, and he, of course, as we see now, he's become the master of the Crane School. His old friend in the scene, in black, is the lead student of the Tiger School. Now, in the context of Tiger and Crane Fist, this is the scene where they've both graduated to the highest level, and the idea is that one of them, well, supposedly the more powerful, the more skilled, or the better trained warrior of the two, would go on to teach the other warrior about their style of fighting, and the others train them to combine the styles to become the greatest martial arts ever, the Tiger Crane Fist, hence the title of the movie. In the original movie, however, Master Tang is defeated by, and I really cannot remember his character's name in the original movie. He only is in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and his scenes come way later on in this particular movie. So it appears that he won, but he knows in his heart he defeated. And this actually sends Master Tang into a pissy mood and refuses to basically bow down to the other person's teachings, forever splitting the Tiger and the Crane schools up. In the beginning of the movie, we find out that the Tiger School has essentially been eradicated by Master Pain's forces. So it's kind of, dubious which one's better or not, because obviously the Crane School survived. Well, okay, so the Crane School isn't being attacked, and when it does get attacked, it's getting its ass kicked. We'll see that also in this movie. So it's actually quite an interesting scene in the original movie. I mean, it's this whole idea of working together. We are stronger together than we are apart, and I think that is really kind of powerful statement, especially in these times. By the time this is going up, my new podcast, 60 Seconds to Comply, should already be at least 3 or 4 episodes up. And one of the recurring themes in that podcast we talk about, me and my friend Connor, who will be guest starring on this sometime soon, is that sometimes a really good movie has such powerful themes that they can be recursive. So, RoboCop, there's a very strong theme of anti-corporation, or at least anti-capitalism, but it's also got themes of good versus evil, humanity lost or humanity stolen and regained, things like that. It's amazing how some films, you put them on and they still feel relevant. Okay, Kung Pao's not one of those. realistically speaking, it doesn't really have much theming. But it's surprising how the original Tiger and Crane Fist itself has a lot of really good theming in it. You know, the whole idea of jealousy, rivalry, and trying to put all that behind it. We talk about Wimplo, or the character Liu Kang in the original movie, how he has this death scene. He's the character that's very antagonistic to Jimmy Wang Yu's character in the original movie. And they have their fights, which of course gets parodied to a certain degree in Kung Pao. But they do have to come together, and they ultimately do learn from each other, and it's Liu Kang actually sacrifices himself to make sure that, again, I can't remember half these characters' names, I'm just terrible with names, but Master Payne's forces do not find Jimmy Wang Yu. So, yeah, the original, I can see why Steve Odekirk actually really fell in love with this movie. I've only watched it's a dub. Odekirk managed to get the original Mandarin, I believe, and that's what he got the 35mm prints and got them digitized and cleaned up, well, as much as he could clean them up. They were a mess. I could see why he did it, and he loved those characters, and those characters are really cool. I mean, even Wimplo, in the original thing, yeah, he's a bit of a prick, but at least, he's fighting for what he thinks is right, and, he's got a bit of an attitude problem, but he does overcome it. It's some great theming. I'll be honest, guys, I'm really stretching on this episode. That intro took me way too short a time, and truthfully there's not much to say about this particular minute. I mean, yes, it's got a recurring gag, but that gag it chops up an important scene. We do not see the fight that is in the original movie in this scene whatsoever. When the character that is Master Tang's old friend does turn up, it's modern day. It's got its own things going on. We'll get to that. It's got to be somewhere around the halfway point. It's this movie. I'm finding it difficult to try and pinpoint where things happen sometimes. I mean, I know roughly where they are, and I can kind of guess. But this movie has so much in it, and sometimes it has these minutes where it's got to set up the plot and the exposition. However, let's now move on to the audio commentary, where Steve drops the name of the company that worked on all the cleanup for the original film print and talks a little bit about his selection process.
So the original footage was revived by a company,
coincidentally enough.
Yes, Revival Digital, who did an amazing job. It was splotched up. All kinds of artifacting was going on. And they cleaned it up quite nicely. I mean, we still have kind of a raw look, but we wanted that. And there's certain things we couldn't. There were some blotches.
Well, tell the story. We go into what Photochem to take a look at the old print. You finally selected this movie out of hundreds of movies. We get the print in from
And
Hong
I was
Kong.
looking at VHS screeners of movies that I knew were not heavily in distribution with stars in them, so I would be able to acquire the film. So I finally found this one that I loved, and that was mostly because of the Evil Betty, but I really love all of the characters.
So at the what are they really saying segment, okay, there's a lot of repeated footage, so it's just a lot of repeated sound bites, but we do get this nugget from The Chosen One.
Sure, but you're still a lizard.
And finally, we get to the audiobook, and yeah, it had to be this part.
And then he killed the dog.
So thank you once again for tuning in to this maddening deep dive into a really obscure movie that I do genuinely love. I'm flabbergasted that I've actually made it this far, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to keep going. Please share this along. I would love to build an audience. I would genuinely love it if one day I could actually speak to someone like Steve Odekirk or someone at O Entertainment. Yeah, not necessarily for this podcast, but just to say, yeah, I absolutely fucking love your work. So that being said, by the time this is out, I've also migrated my audio feeds to Simplecast. I'm working on getting them onto the various platforms. I believe they're on Spotify and Google. I've put it in for Amazon and not heard a word back, and Apple seems to be an absolute clusterfuck of an operation. It kind of demands that you have an Apple product that you should own, and I ain't got time for that. I ain't got money for that. And also, I kind of hate iTunes. Long story for me for another time. But of course, there is also the U's and the Tubes. Click on the like, share, subscribe, and all that there. I do have Ko-fi. I still have Patreon. I don't know why. We're coming into the 4th month of that being up, and it's It's about as dry as Ben Shapiro's wife, and I might cut that out. Biting political humor. If anything, go listen to 60 Seconds to Comply. I'm really enjoying making that. I put in a tremendous amount of time, effort editing that, and it's another weekly show. I'm doing that with my friend Connor Colson of the Aliens Prequels by Minutes. Go check them out as well. So next time, keep safe, be well, and I'll see you later.